Huge, great, exciting news, as your third stimulus package bill will be called for a vote next week. But which thing is called for a vote? Is it the bill or is it the reconciliation bill? The question is not particularly clear. All last week we were told by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer that they would call the bill for a vote this coming week. They would pass the House of Representatives early in the week and then pass the Senate later in the week, land on the president's table. So is this the big bill, the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill, or is it Plan B, the reconciliation bill? I'll have the details for you in this recording. Meantime, what is the reaction from Senator Harris, now VP Harris, to the U.S. Progressive's letter calling for exactly what she had written in her own bill in 2020? $2,000 checks every month until the pandemic ends is what she wrote. They want a check every month until the pandemic ends. They wrote the letter on Friday. What's her reaction? I'll have the details of this video as well. Meantime, breaking today is a Republican counterproposal. I'll be going over those details. And I'll be also going over new calls and questions whether this stimulus package is too small in the face of what's changing with the pandemic. So much happening across the board. I'll have all your questions answered in this recording, the first of a triple header of shows on Afternoons LALATE. And let's get ready to rock and roll on Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm so excited for you to join me on a big afternoon of shows. This is Afternoons LA, starting with check. In this recording, I'm going to go over the vote, the procedure, the timing for your stimulus, the stimulus check, the SSI and SSDI, the FPUC, retro, all those things. And then I come back in about 20 minutes with Third Stimulus, our second show on Afternoons LA, in which I will compare the Democratic bill versus the Republican counterproposal obtained by this channel earlier today. And then after Third Stimulus, I come back with What the Chuck, the new hit show on Afternoons LA, in which I answer your questions, especially in the face of what's changing with the vaccine and the virus in the last few days. And with that, I have so much happening in today's recording. In today's recording, I'm going to go over all those breaking developments about the call for a vote and the routing times and the processing times to get you finally the stimulus that you need. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. This is the best damn channel out there. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the most comprehensive, in-depth reporting about stimulus, whether it is SNAP benefits for 6-year-olds getting a special add-on announced this morning and yesterday, or it's something very, very specific, like a $1,400 paid sick leave that you're only going to hear on this channel. I have all the incredible details, so make sure you subscribe. We're trying to add another 5,000 subscribers over the next few weeks, so let's get it there. Also, consider becoming a member. This channel is now at 94 million views in its 9th month. We're trying to get to 100 million views. Let's get there. And with that, let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news as you sit here today is that we do have confirmation that a vote on the third stimulus package bill will be coming this next week. Nancy Pelosi last week confirmed that she's calling for a vote on the third stimulus package bill next week. And then it's going to go to the Senate and Chuck Schumer will call for a vote. And then it will land on the president's table to be signed. But then came this today. A comment by Nancy Pelosi today and yesterday indicated that she's calling for a vote, Plan B, the reconciliation bill. The question is whether it's and or. Is she calling for a vote for Plan A and Plan B? Plan A is the big bill. Plan B is the reconciliation. Or is she calling for one or the other? It's not particularly clear suddenly. Plan A versus Plan B, what's the difference? Plan A is a big bill. Plan B can't have anything in there except a stimulus check. The similarities between the two, they both have the stimulus check. How much is the stimulus check? For every viewer of this channel, including if you're on SSI and SSDI, Social Security and relevant benefits, the stimulus check amount is the following. $1,400 for individuals, $2,800 for married couples, $1,400 for children, $3,200 for adult dependents. Very straightforward. That is in both the plans. But Plan B doesn't have anything else. Doesn't have hazard pay, doesn't have FPUC, doesn't have SSI and SSDI, doesn't have rent, doesn't have food, doesn't have utilities, doesn't have paid sick leave, doesn't have child support, doesn't have anything else in there that you thought was going to be in Plan A, because it's a reconciliation bill. Earlier this week and over the weekend, we've heard mixed reactions about which one is better and which one is worse. The viewers of this channel and myself unanimously believe that Plan A is the one that needs to go first, and certainly needs to get done. Kristen Gillibrand, a Democrat in New York, says, I do not believe it's time for half measures. I would absolutely support doing it through reconciliation. The sooner the better. She doesn't say that she wouldn't support only doing reconciliation. Now, understand, reconciliation has to be done right now, whereas a stimulus bill could wait a few more days, but there's no reason to wait on anything. Americans were told this would be done on day one. Representative Chrissy Houlihan, who's also a Democrat, this one out of Pennsylvania, says, what are we, in 6 days in? This is really hard for us to abandon the important conversation of coming together as a chance when we can do it right now. Amen to that. But others say that splitting bills is not a plan. Press Secretary to Joe Biden says the needs of Americans are urgent. We are not looking to split a package in two. Well said there. Despite what you may have read, we're not planning to split this package in two, she said, the press secretary to Joe Biden. And also his White House communications director confirmed the same statement as well. Brian Deasy, who you're going to hear a lot about on this channel the next few weeks, the head of the National Economic Council for Joe Biden, says we can't do this piecemeal. So by all accounts, don't worry, no one in the Biden camp thinks that we're only going to do a reconsideration bill. That is not happening. They've made it very clear. So that's really good. So the question is, what is being called for a vote next week? It's very clear that the bill needs to be called for a vote next week. If you want to call for a reconciliation bill as a vote, fine. If you want to call for Plan B for a vote, fine. But you also have to call for Plan A. Bernie Sanders has just said in the last few hours, people can talk to whoever they want to talk to, but this country faces an enormous crisis. Elections have consequences. We need to act right now. Well said. The call and the hope to do bipartisan relief is still imminent in the Biden administration. But the question is whether anyone should sit around any longer. Over the last 2 weeks, Joe Biden has had Zoom chats with Republicans to see, what do you want? What do you want in the bill? Here's what I have. This is what I want. This is what you want. Well, Joe Biden may have been led on, viewers think, because in those 2 weeks, the Republicans gave much of nothing. Instead, what they did today was 10 of them, led by Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, and Ron Portman, introduced their own proposal. It's not a bill yet, their own proposal. And the proposal is basically a slap in the face to everything that Joe Biden had talked to them about over the last 2 weeks on Zoom. And you'll see in the video after this that Joe Biden had started low on FPUC, low on stimulus checks, omitted SSI and SSDI. And what did the Republicans do? They used that to their benefit and came in really low, even lower than that. So whereas Joe Biden may have brought FPUC in at $400 a week to look like he was trying to find a middle ground, Republicans said, oh no, we're going to go even lower than that. The plan by Joe Biden didn't work. If they thought that was impossible, I don't think it would be wasting their time. The first mission is do a bipartisan way forward, said Representative Josh Gothenheim, a Democrat of New Jersey. But that doesn't seem to be actually working. The question is, how quickly does stimulus need to be done? So what is the Republican plan? Well, the Republican plan doesn't have much of anything. And when we talk about the big 3 items, well, actually big 4 items, check, unemployment, hazard pay, and also SSI and SSDI. This is what the Republican plan has. It has well, first of all, the Republican plan doesn't give any numbers, so we are to presume what they're saying. But the Republican plan as to check seems to suggest it's the same check as Joe Biden, but to less people, lowering the level threshold to get the check. Joe Biden's about $75,000 2019 earnings of the Republican proposal, lowering that threshold, meaning that less of you would get a check, meaning that some of you who got the $600 check wouldn't even get this check. Not good. No bueno. Next, FPUC. Joe Biden's at $400 going forward for FPUC. No retroactiveness. Certainly not what he promised, and certainly not sufficient. What are the Republicans doing? They're even going lower. They're saying $300 a week. Let's just keep it where it is, and we'll move it forward to September. Item number 3, SSI and SSDI. Joe Biden promised it, not in there. The Republicans, not in there. Finally, hazard pay. Joe Biden says he's going to have it in there. Though we've not seen the amount yet, we're really anxious to see how he treats hazard pay. What do the Republicans do? Mitt Romney, who actually in 2020 wrote a hazard pay bill with his name on it and introduced to the Senate that became the subject of no less than 300 videos of this channel, me praising Mitt Romney for this bill because it required employers to apply for hazard pay, required them to get you the hazard pay the employers to get the hazard pay for you to ensure that you got the hazard pay. What does he do? He tosses it away. There's no hazard pay in his bill. So you suddenly see that Republicans are getting you next to almost nothing. But what do they give you? Another round of PPP, of course. And yes, if you're still wondering, that $850 billion of unused PPP that could have been used as a stimulus check by executive order under the Trump administration, certainly can be done under the Biden administration as well, still there. So now let's turn to what else is unfolding. Well, what's unfolding is now you suddenly see that Joe Biden had came in at a $1.9 trillion price tag for his third stimulus package to try to not look too big to get bipartisan support. And that is working against him for 4 reasons, which I want to detail to you right now. 1, the Republicans actually went lower. 2, there's concerns of a major market crash looming. There's concern that the stock market could crash in the next couple of weeks. The Dow Jones, the S&P fell nearly 2% on Friday, and it was down. The Dow Jones is down 621 points, down or 2%, the worst drop since December 14th. This is amid concerns about GameStop and Reddit, but more importantly, concerns that we could see a major bubble burst on Wall Street. Third, unemployment numbers, no bueno. Head of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, spoke last Friday and said, we do not see re-employment of low-income individuals. People who made less than $49,000 have not found new jobs since this pandemic hit, whereas rich people have gotten back to work through telecommuting and other formats. He says, until we see re-employment of low-income families, we are deeply concerned at the Federal Reserve. Number 5, one of the most shocking developments, which is the issue about the strain. What strain? The strain from South Africa to the COVID-19 virus. There is concerns that the Biden camp wrote the third stimulus package at $1.9 trillion based upon a series of assumptions, which we now know, and they have confirmed, were untrue. Joe Biden said that the stimulus package is designed as it is to reopen schools and reopen businesses in 90 days because we're going to get back to work and be back to normal in 90 days. Oh no, that's totally untrue. It's untrue for now 2 reasons. 1, in 90 days, we're not going to be back at work, but actually then seeing widespread occurrences of what's called the South African variant to the COVID-19 virus. That statement was said today by Dr. Michael Osterloff, the most renowned expert on the vaccine and COVID, who was formerly one of the heads of the Biden transition team on COVID. Speaking to Meet the Press, said that the next 4 to 6 weeks will be catastrophic, because we have rampant opening of restaurants and places across the country, and we do not have in place enough vaccinations or precautions for people 65 years or older. So he thinks the next 4 to 6 weeks will actually be far worse than now, not actually far better as Biden predicted. Moreover, a Politico report on Friday said the following. The Biden camp's promise that we would reopen businesses within 90 days and that this stimulus would be sufficient was based upon an assertion. What was that assertion? 100 million vaccinations in 100 days. But Biden no longer can reach his own benchmark. Why? Or his own promise. Why? Because 2 days after he made his promise, his own CDC head said, I have no idea how many vaccine doses we have. I have no idea how many people we can vaccinate in the next 100 days. And it got worse. On Saturday and Friday, a new report came out that Biden cannot account for 25 million missing doses that were supposed to have landed in the States by now. And also on Friday, a member of the press corps asked Joe Biden, why did you order so few new doses of Moderna and Pfizer when you're promising this big promise of a lot of vaccination doses? He said, give me time, I just got here. Ultimately, this goes back to stimulus. The stimulus bill with a single stimulus check, with no retro FPUC, with no SSI backwards, and questionable hazard pay and questionable business grants, was written at a time in which we didn't have a variant of the virus. He thought that everything was going to be beautiful and wonderful in just 90 days. We now know that's not the case. So the bill, by all accounts, should be much bigger and bolder than 1.9 trillion. Which brings us back then, of course, to what else? The progressives. On Friday, the House progressives wrote Harris and Biden, saying, we are urging you to do a new revision to your bill to have a stimulus check every month until the pandemic ends for all Americans. They didn't have a price tag to it. What was the response? There is no response. Viewers are sort of surprised by that because today the Biden camp says, I'm happy to discuss the Republican counterproposal. But the Biden camp has not said whether they're willing to discuss the progressive proposal that mirrors the Harris bill of 2020 that she ran on a presidential campaign based upon of $2,000 every month for 6 months at least until the pandemic goes away or unemployment goes down. A bill which she has now disowned and sort of stayed away from. Viewers don't understand what's particularly going on. But as you sit here today, the focus and the positivity remains in place. A bill will be called for a vote next week. We have been told it's the big stimulus bill. We're told it's going to pass the House of Representatives early next week and then land in the Senate. And that if it's on the president's table, then you could see stimulus within about 10 days thereafter in your bank account. That's the great news. But the push is still underway. Hashtag FPUC retro, hashtag MSC, and hashtag also SS200. Our work is not done. We continue to push these followers of this channel called Purple Power because they're advocates for a big stimulus that they're owed during this pandemic. If you have questions or comments to today's video, drop them in comments below. I love to feature them in tomorrow's recording. Coming up next is third stimulus check and third stimulus package, in which I go over line item, the Republican counterproposal, and the Biden plan, item by item, comparing left and right. Also, I'll go over how it compares to the progressives plan. And I'll go over what I think is going to happen next week as well. And then after that, I'm back with What the Chuck. Stay informed, stay focused. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It's free to subscribe and hit that like button. And I will see you next on Third Stimulus Check and Third Stimulus Package.